Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and today I've got a 1 versus 1 free-for-all battle for you on Silmarillion Total War. I'm going to be playing as the Angband faction, and my opponents are Tolin Gaurhoth and the House of Finarfin respectively, so it's a really nice matchup here. I don't often see Tolin Gaurhoth and Angband taking to the field on opposite sides, so that'll be fun to watch. But in any case, let's take a look at my army composition, and we can move on to that of my opponents. I have Ironshod Reavers. I believe I have 2 units of the Ironshod Reavers. I've also got a bunch of Wretches of Angband to defend these guys from cavalry charges. Is it possible that I have 3? Indeed, I do have 3 Ironshod Reavers. I've also brought some Uruloki, and to contest the open ground with the Tolin Gaurhoth wargs, I have of course brought a couple of wargs of my own. So you've got the Wolf Riders of Angband here. And one difference between them and the Tolin Gaurhoth roster in general, just to give you a little bit of a sense of the flavor of the Angband faction, is that these guys are quite heavily armored. In fact, they are as armored as the high-tier Tolin Gaurhoth wargs, but they are nowhere near as skilled or deadly, especially on the charge as many of the Tolin Gaurhoth wargs. Moving on over here, I've got a couple of companies of the Ironshot Arbalists. Give me a good look at the model there. They are a crossbow unit, very, very deadly, of course. One of the few crossbow units in the game. In fact, currently I think they are the only crossbow unit in the game, although that will be supplemented later by the dwarves. I've got some Ironshod Ravagers here. I believe 2 entire companies of them. I've also got a Mangonel to prey upon the more static nature of the Nargothrond armies. I've also brought 3 units of Ironshod Halberdiers, and I'm pairing them with 3 units of Ironshod Legionaries. This, I think, is the go-to for the Angband front line. The Legionaries are just fantastic at holding the line. They're not nearly as offensively oriented as, say, these guys over here with their axes. So weapon type does have a big impact on what a unit is used for in Silmarillion Total War. But the swords do give them a little bit of a melee defense buff, so that does make them a bit more suitable for frontline combat. But again, 3 units of Halberdiers and 3 units of Legionnaires. I've also brought... Where are they? I know I've got a unit of Bulldogs here. Yes, indeed. I want to point your attention towards this new model here that was made for us by Castellan, or Taudion of Lindon. I think it's got a lot of aliases. But it's just fantastic. It's just really creepy looking, and he's got some more really cool stuff coming down the pipe. You're going to see Fingolf and Bodyguard, for example. I'll be able to show that off soon in a little bit of a faction preview, among some other things as well, which will be coming to Doriath in the near future. So that's pretty cool. But that's going to do it for my army composition. Let's go ahead and see what my opponents are bringing to the battle today. Now, directly across from myself, we have the House of Finarfin being played by Eclipse 2500. This isn't his entire army. There are a few hidden units. It's important to know that Nargothrond does have a lot of lightly armored ambush-focused units that use poison, so they are going to appear as the battle progresses, but I believe he's got a couple units of the Stalkers and a couple units of the Scouts of Tauda and Falroth. So that's important to note. He's got some Defenders of Talathirn in here that are visible, some Wardens of Nargothrond, 1 full company here, more Defenders of Talathirn, and then some Wardens of Nargothrond. It's a little bit of a checkerboard formation here. Some more Defenders of Talathirn, Archers of Talathirn, which are the mainline archer unit for the House of Finarfin. Wardens of Nargothrond, we have a detachment back here, and of course we have the Bridge Wards of Nargothrond who are in loose formation. Probably a good idea, since it's a fair thing to expect that the Orc forces are going to have a Mangonel, as they both have access to them. We also have the Sartor Findarato, the bodyguard of King Finrod himself, the Lord of Nargothrond. We have some more of the pike units here, and then finally a little detachment of the Wardens of Nargothrond out on the wing. So for those of you that are just joining us for the first time and are perhaps not familiar with Silmarillion Total War and some of the nuances thereof, we use a system in Silmarillion Total War that allows you to bring half strength for certain units for half of the cost. It's just something that kind of helps you round out your compositions, and it does add a surprising amount of diversity and utility to the smaller, more focused faction rosters that we have in Silmarillion Total War. So that's an important thing to understand there. And then we have some Archers of Talathirn as well, and I'm pretty sure this is where one of the Scouts of Talon and Fathers is hanging out. There's probably another one here, given the presence of these stakes. Now, similar thing with the Tolin Gaurhoth army, as there's a lot of hidden terrain in here. We're not going to see all of their units all at once, but I do remember the composition pretty decently. So he's got some Hirschburg-Kras Howlers here. Important to note these are light infantry with lock morale, one of the few lock morale units in the game, and they're a super nice tar pit. We've got a detachment of them here. Scar High Trappers, 2 detachments of them, so the full strength unit is twice that size. More Howlers, yet more Howlers, and a whole bunch more Howlers, so a big commitment of Howlers here. Most of his forces are kind of just trashed here, and just there to get in the way. What he has brought, which is a bit surprising because I've never seen anyone actually go this heavy on them before, is 3 units of Thrangshik Wolfborn, and they're going to be a pain in the ass well into the late game. So that's going to do for the armed compositions. Let's go ahead and get this battle started. I hope you guys enjoy it. So one important thing to note in this game is that we agreed that we would all go after each other. There wasn't going to be anybody trying to sit back or, you know, sitting on the entirety of their forces. People were going to move and try to engage and be active in this fight. So that's exactly what Artorias and I are doing right here. I've got my Ironshod Reavers backed up by my Wretches of Angband, my 2 units of Wolf Riders, and of course I'm sending my Uroloki over this way as well. My Ironshod Reavers are going to have a great time beating up on Hirschburg-Kras Howlers. These light infantry can't really hold a candle to the very, very heavily armored nature of my Ironshod Reavers, especially with the armor upgrade. You can see their armor upgrade model here. Very, very fearsome, very heavily armored. And these Hirschburg-Kras units, really unaided, are not up to the task of beating even 3 units of Raiders on their own. Move on over here. Looks like we've got some more units coming out of hiding. Got some Hirschburg-Kras Hunters here, opening fire on the Nargothrond lines. And we've got some Warband here, so a lot of Hirschburg-Kras low-tier units. Scar High Trappers trying to do their best. We've got some... looks like we have some Hirschburg-Kras Zagul-Kalab, so a lot of these units come from different clans. And together they make up the Wolves of Tolin Gaurhath. Stalkers of Tower and Falroth here, getting run down by the Laugskaraz Zagul-Kalab. This is a detachment of them. They have an armor-piercing charge, and they're really more of an anti-cavalry focused unit. Although the armor-piercing charge does give them some utility against infantry, so you definitely want to be aware of the striking power of a unit like this. However, the Stalkers of Talon and Falroth do have really good melee defense, so they will be able to stand up to that from the front. And they're actually going to beat those guys back and rout them off pretty quickly. Hirschburg-Kras tossing their javelins. Important to note these javelins do have a negative effect on morale. So these Defenders of Talathirnan are actually losing about 2 morale, in addition to the shocks that they take from damage. Let's see what we got here. The Hirschburg-Kras Howlers have come in force, but now that the Nargothrond Bridge Wards have arrived, this is basically a foregone conclusion here. Although it is worth noting that they'd probably lose over here anyway, just because the Hirschburg-Kras units are really just there to get in the way. They are by no means the cream of the crop when it comes to the Nargothrond units. Scar High Trappers here trying to maneuver themselves into a position where they can perhaps put some pressure here on the Swordsmen of Talathirnan. Meanwhile, my army was sitting back for just a little bit, but now I'm getting to move forward with my my main body of troops, my Halberds and my Legionnaires. I'm going to be backed up by my Bulldogs. I've got Arbalists here. I've got also my my Ironshod Ravagers. So I'm going to use these guys as on kind of like a deep flanking maneuver while I pin his center in place of the Ironshod Legionnaires. Now I want to pay special attention to avoiding the pike units here, or at least being able to put enough pressure on them that they think twice about engaging me immediately. The longer I can keep them out of the fight, and the longer I can avoid them, the better off I'm going to do, as pikes have a massive range advantage over any other unit type. They don't have a ton of damage, but they do have a range, which helps them be very, very deadly indeed. And there goes Tolin Gaurhath General, apparently. His general was in one of the Howler units over here, and you can see that my Reavers are doing just fine. Some of the units here have taken some fairly heavy losses, but there are a lot of Howlers to cut our way through. I've got another company of them over here. It looks like they cleaned up one of those units entirely, and what I should be doing is bring them around into the rear here and attacking Hirschburg-Kras Howlers from the rear. It's not gonna rout them, but it will help me kill them faster and conserve my troops for later on. Wolf Riders here holding position, and I've gotten basically everyone into a position where I'm able to begin putting some pressure on the Elves of Nargothrond, because they're definitely the big threat right now. They have probably taken the least amount of damage of the 3 armies so far. Warband doing their best alongside the Howlers, but honestly this is going to be game over for them. Though surprisingly enough, they have managed to kill off about 20 in that unit. Howlers here holding the line, but again, this is a foregone conclusion. So the Hirschburg-Kras are going to run off. The Howlers, however, are made of sterner stuff. They're going to stick around and fight for pretty well ever. Trappers here getting beat down by Defenders of Talathirnan, down to about half strength. Hirschburg-Kras Hunters now out of ammunition. rallying and charging against some Wardens of Nargothrond here and some Stalkers as well. A second company of Stalkers being thrown in to reinforce them. And that is all but going to seal the fate of Tol-in Gaurhoth, which I have to wonder, if we just slow things down just a little bit here, if this kind of wasn't Artorias' plan from the beginning here. He doesn't really have an army that's well suited to fighting the Elves of Nargothrond, but certainly, given that we decided we would all be very aggressive, he threw them in here and, oh, we got some fiery shots from the Uruk there, but he threw them in here, which then causes me to come forward because I want to attack the House of Finarfin at a point when it seems like they're a little bit weaker, or they're in a little bit more of a dire situation than what they actually are. And then he gets to sit back with his cavalry and kind of wait for us to exhaust ourselves. So I think that would be a pretty valid strategy. I could just be reading into something that wasn't there, but if that was the case, I think that it was a pretty valid strategy. Over here, Halberdiers and Legionnaires moving in together. We got some pikemen coming here. Unfortunately, not a whole lot that I can do to them, but I do have some crossbows trying to focus them down. You can see those wards of Nargothrond beginning to fall. They're going to counter volley with everything they got. Javelins from some swordsmen in the back. I think you can see them right there. Poison arrows coming in from the stalkers, or the scouts rather, of Tauda and Vauraf. But in most places where I've managed to keep my numbers really, really strong, my troops are doing very, very well for themselves. So we have a small detachment here, actually a full company of the Wardens of Nargothrond, but they will lose out in fairly short order to the big concentration of armor-piercing troops that I have here. And in addition, my halberds do outrange them, so the Wardens of Nargothrond are going to be mostly helpless to stop them. However, over in the center is where I am weakest, and that is where the Elves of Nargothrond are strongest, and that's going to be a perennial issue for me throughout this battle. Ironshot Ravagers here. Looks like we accidentally chased off some of the Scar High units. Didn't want to do that. I kind of wanted them to stay around and act as meat shields for me, but, you know, it'd be like that sometimes. Hishpokraz Hunters here, going after my Ironshot Reavers, which, well, not the most advantageous engagement, so I'm actually going to charge them down with my Reavers, and we're going to cut them to bits in short order. Moving back on over here, Scar High Trappers rallying alongside a few Hishpokraz Hunters, and moving towards the Arch-Talentyr, and I'm going to try and shut them down for a little bit, which can only work out well in my favor. It looks like the Uruk here, cooking fools left and right. How do you like your elves? Well done or extra crispy? Just kidding. The Uruk only know how to cook one way. There goes some of my wretches of Angband. They're fleeing from the field, and that is going to open up things for my Uruk at the very least to begin firing into this big old blob here. Ooh, great shots there. Really cooking a lot of the lower and medium tier units for Nargothrond. Important to note that fire does not do particularly well against units with a high shield value. You can actually see some of the units there from the Talentyr tier getting back up again. So units with high shield value and high armor tend to stand out to it really, really well. But units like the Stalkers of Nargothrond or the Talentyr units, when taken from the right angle, they will lose out. Or they will take a huge amount of damage from firing, so it's very, very potent, but usually against the right kind of unit. So I'm going to pull my Uruk back, throw a unit of Wretches in there that I had been keeping in reserve to try and hold back the Elves of Nargothrond just for a little longer, and allow my Skirmishers and my Uruk to get some work done. Looks like we have some of my Ironshot Ravagers here who have been broken by a combination of Defenders of Talentyr and the Sartor Finderado. They would have seen them off quite handily. We've got some more reinforcements from Nargothrond coming in here. So we're kind of exchanging wings a little bit. I'm definitely winning out over here. You can see the Wardens of Nargothrond down to 8. Didn't take very long, did it? There's another unit of Wardens that have been brought in there to try and reinforce them, but slowly but surely they are being beaten down. And even over here in the center, where those pikemen were present, I managed to focus them down with my crossbowmen, and now they are beginning to lose ground to my orcs. But that's not really going to count for too much if I can't stop them from rolling up my line. So I commit my bulldogs here, trying to keep things steady. And more Nargothrond troops are managing to break through here. But my wretches are holding the line quite valiantly. Ironshot Ravagers being brought in to try and staunch the bleeding. And now we're going to get a minor surround off here on these Nargothrond troops with some of my Reavers who have been brought up from the back lines. Over here, you can see the Throng Cheek Wolfborn making nuisance of themselves, taking down some of my Ironshot Reavers. I am trying to counter as best I can with my Wolf Riders of Angband. but there's only so much that they can do against this many Thrangsheik Wolfborn. It's a really scary cavalry force, and I can understand why he'd want to save these for the late game. So my Wolf Riders are quite hard-pressed. I brought some more Reavers over here, a small unit of Reavers that's quite badly damaged, and I've got a second company of them over here, but out in the open like this, not supported, ooh, it's going to hurt. Yep, it's bad news bears right there, and this unit might just rout off, and that's going to be the end of them. I'd be shocked if they didn't. That's a massive, massive loss in manpower. Yeah, this should pretty well be the end of them right there. And unfortunately, a little bit of a micro mistake. I think I was probably occupied elsewhere in the battlefield, so that Reaver unit gets gobbled up pretty much for free. And that's all my fault. Meanwhile, Elves of Nargothrond firing into our tab engagement, trying to take advantage of the chaos between our two factions. Slow things down just a wee bit. Elves of Nargothrond looking to tactically retreat here, as my forces have managed to surround them, and we are beating them back. And the more units that they feed into this wood chipper, the worse it is going to go for them. Even my Arbalists are in the fray right now, and they're managing to do very well for themselves over here. Mangonel crew, now out of ammunition, has been brought forward to try and plug the gap as well, and they are actually doing very well against these heavily outnumbered elves. Over here, it's a little bit more in the balance, although on this end, we are definitely winning, but Eclipse is kind of playing for time. He's winning in a few different places that he wasn't previously, and it's a little bit more even in those areas as well, or in other areas, I should say. So he's playing for time, which I think is probably smart. But I will come out of this with a fair amount of my right wing intact, and now the Elves of Nargothrond are retreating into this gap over here. Haha! But there are some dangers. Vorbat Gajutar, this is one of it's actually the only current legendary company for the Wolves of Tolian Gaurhoth. And they're going to harass this retreat. They have a very high charge bonus, and they're also locked morale, so it's impossible to get rid of these guys without killing them completely. And then there's another company, the Thrangsheik Wolfborn, over here as well. So it's good to see the Vorbat Gajutar on the field today, and they're very, very fast as well. Look at that. They just hightail out of there, only taking a couple of units in exchange for that cheeky charge against the retreating Elves in our Nargothrond column. Some Talathiran here, very, very much in danger of routing, and now Artorius has come in with his Thrangsheik Wolfborn. The wolves are among the sheep, and is really taking a toll here on some of these retreating forces from Nargothrond. Even the defenders of Talathiran aren't foolproof against the devastating charge and the ravenous predations of these two units of Thrangsheik. So I think we're trying to avoid each other, sort of. Thrangsheik Wolfborn, however, mounting a big charge into my Mangonel crew. I have my Ravagers in there, so I want to try and countercharge them, especially with my Urloki. Urloki are fantastic at fighting cavalry units, especially if they get big charges through them. You can see the chaos that they can cause, and I think Artorius probably wasn't expecting that. These units are normally very, very sturdy, and seeing so many of them fall in such quick succession is probably a bit of a shock. So I'm filtering in some more troops here, some armor-piercing units, some chaff units to just try and hold the line. I've also got my Wolf Riders of Angband in there, so we do manage to deal a fairly substantial amount of damage in return against these Thrangsheik Wolfborn who are picking on us. Ooh, a little bit of cheeky fire there. Not going to hit anybody, but it certainly is going to send the right message, I think. We've got here some of my Ravagers looking like they want a piece. And a countercharge from these Ravagers can actually really, really hurt cavalry like this. You might see a few of them fall there, and indeed you do. And then back come my Urloki. We're going to get another cheeky charge in there. You can see more and more of the Thrangsheik falling in exchange. Meanwhile, I've brought the rest of my forces over here to try and assail the position of the Elves of Nargothrond. I think some of these units still have ammunition, so I'm trying to pull them out of there. I think that was a little bit of a micro mistake or a pathfinding error on my end. But the Elves of Nargothrond are now nestled quite safely in this little canyon here, and we're going to have to work really hard and be careful if we want to dislodge them without breaking our army upon their shield wall. Wretches of Angband now being brought in as well to try and serve as an anti-cavalry tool. Looks like one of my Urloki there just got cut down by the Thrangsheik Wolfborn, so it's not going all my own way. Cycling back again for another charge. Unfortunately, I let my wargs get a little bit too far ahead here. Wretches of Angband, however, moving in, and despite the fact that they are low-tier spearmen, they are exceedingly efficient against high-tier cavalry. They can be very, very scary indeed. And the longer that these wargs stay in battle with them, the more they are going to feel their sting. Oh, hello, Archimedes. Just my kitty who wants some attention. More Wolfborn over here, down to less than half strength, and I've got lots of Ravagers and stuff on the prowl, and they're backed up, of course, by Udoloki, and then I've got a real big, juicy unit of Ravagers still remaining. So a unit like this can exchange very, very nicely in terms of the cost of my Ravagers versus the cost of cavalry charging them down. They can exchange very, very nicely with heavy cavalry like these Throng Sheik. So you definitely want to be careful when taking on units like this, because they will shave the HP off your multiple HP horsemen right quick, far faster than you would expect. And of course you will kill many of them in return. That is inevitable. However, it's really just the it's the trade there that's favorable for the Angband player, so certainly be aware of that if you want to try and charge down units like the Iron Ravagers. What do we got here? My Bulldogs still remaining, 32 of them. The Elves in Nargothrond are nicely bottled up. I've got some more Arbalists moving over this direction to try and supplement my numbers. I've got lots of Halberdiers and some other heavy infantry in there as well. And they're going to exchange pretty evenly with the Elves of Nargothrond, but of course once the pikemen get in there, that's when things are going to start to go pear-shaped for me. So I've still got my Arbalists here. I think some of them somewhere have ammunition. If they do, I should certainly be using them, but that doesn't appear to be the case, as I've already thrown in ammunition to Arbalists. So now I just have no choice but to try and slog my way through there. Ooh, big charge here. You can see the exchange. I just lost like 50, nearly 60 or so men. I know, a little bit under 50 men to that unit of Throng Sheik. But look at the damage that was caused. That's a full unit that was wiped out. I think that was his smaller unit of about 12. So you can really see the how cost-effective these units can be when they are in numbers and they are able to get their charge off. So now Artorias is on the back foot. He's only got one unit of his Throng Sheik left over, and of course he still has his Vorback Gajutar and some other nasty things. Looks like, well, I spoke too soon. He had his Vorback Gajutar, but they went on kind of like a deep strike here into the heart of the Elves of Nargothrond formation, and they got caught out by the Scouts of Taured and Falrath, who are actually two-handed spearmen. And they ended up being destroyed, so that sucks, but I know he does have another unit of the Throng Sheik hanging around somewhere. So now I'm going to begin to cycle my forces back towards the other side, but I am going to be harangued across my retreat by the Throng Sheik Wolfborn. They're not going to let me get away too easily, and they really want to get my Udoloki, because my Udoloki they're my bastion, basically, of power left on the field. Mostly I just have tired Orc infantry. I do, of course, have my Bulldogs, but they're not nearly the same kind of threat to Artorias' remaining forces as are my Udoloki. And that goes the same for the Elves of Nargothrond. Like, the Bulldogs are good, but the Udoloki are just simply better in a variety of roles. They are somewhat hampered by the fact that they are an Elephant class unit, and therefore there are specific bonuses that apply against them. They're also expensive, and they're low in number. Far lower than the Bulldogs, so different roles. I think at this point Artorias and I agree that the Elves of Nargothrond are still looking pretty healthy, and they are beating back my main force. You can already see some breaking begin to happen here. My Archer and Halberdiers rushing off the battlefield. They've had enough. They're down to 7 and 10 respectively. So fair enough there, boys. Run for it, save your skins. And they are pushing me back hard, and they've got a lot of pikes. They've got a lot of anti-cavalry. So it really does behoove Artorias and I to work together at this juncture to try and even the odds. So you can see a very healthy unit here, full strength company, fresh, barely, actually hasn't done any fighting so far, unit of Throng Sheik Wolfborn, which is a great thing to have in your pocket in the end game for sure. Now the Elves of Nargothrond moving forward, looking to reinforce their line. We've got some scouts here and some Archers of Talat-Dirnan who are standing by the scouts, pushing their way in, trying to break up my lines, and you know what? It's going to work! All I have there are Arbalists, and they're not going to be able to stand up to that, so big mass push here from the Elves of Nargothrond, trying to break things up a little bit. But, haha! This is where it turns around. Udoloki still had a little bit of ammunition left, so we are going to be able to punish them for this move. And this is a little bit of the counterplay that exists to the mass push in Silmarillion Total War. There are some units like Udoloki, like the Green Elf Rangers, that can really punish you and try to do things like this. Ooh, that's nasty. Cook some of my units there too. One more. Oh, another one. We had a fair amount of ammunition left, surprisingly. Cooking lots of my units in exchange though too. And that's going to do. We're out of fire now. We just have to get in there and try and clean them up in close quarters. So there's knife work needs doing. Bulldogs moving in. Uraloki moving in as well. We're going to try and pincer this advancing company of Elves of Nargothrond. Now they're going to be in some trouble. The scouts of Talon and Falroth here. Moving forward to try and rejoin the rest of the House of Wardens of Nargothrond. About to take a cheeky charge to the rear. Oh no! Well, the constant movement, though, it does kind of mess with the charge pathfinding. So this is actually counterplay. When you have infantry that are being run down by cavalry, sometimes if you just keep them moving, you know, it does actually pay off, and you can kind of see that there a little bit. And now the other company of Throngshik have rejoined the fray, and so there are a fair amount of them here. There's about 45 or so of the Throngshik Wolfborn left over, and 30 of them is enough to deal with. No, most of the time you're going to see one of these units in combat, not 3. So this is quite dangerous for us. Armor-piercing spears here, however, on the Wardens of Nargothrond are certainly going to pay dividends here for the beleaguered elves. And Artorius is not going to want to stay in there for too long. He's going to pull out after taking some minor damage. I've got my Uraloki in the fray here. Definitely dangerous. Not an easy place for them to be, as you can see that there's a lot of spears and other things in there. I spoke of units that have bonuses, and all pole arms and many two-handed units, in fact all of them except for one, have bonuses against the Uraloki, specifically the elephant unit types. So this is a dangerous place for my Uraloki to be, but nonetheless, they kind of need to be here. Oh no. Bad news bears. Horns of Nargothrond getting charged down, but I think the Throngshik are going to pay for that. Oh yeah, they are. These Wardens are no joke. These are some of the best units that Nargothrond has to offer, so they're going to hold their ground in the face of these pretty staggering odds. Scouts of Talon and Falroth now routing off. My Uraloki doing very well for themselves. My Legionnaires and my Ravagers, everything has now rallied. Got Bulldogs in there as well. You can see them fighting hard against the elite guard of King of Finrod himself. Although I don't know if he ever actually called himself king. He was just the Lord of Nargothrond. He like gave homage to the House of Fingolf that people acknowledged as having the high kingship. But in any case, the Lord of Nargothrond's elite guard being dragged down by sheer numbers here. They're doing well. Now the Wardens of Nargothrond are going to be thrown in there, but there's basically no rear guard left for the Elves of Nargothrond. If these scouts of Talon and Falroth were able to hold their ground, they could have zoned out the Throngshik just a little bit longer, but unfortunately these ravenous wolf riders aren't going to be able to break through that leaguer, and now there's about 37 of them charging headlong into the rear of the Elves of Nargothrond, and I think it's fairly clear that Eclipse's days are numbered. It's going to come down to myself and Artorius in the endgame. Look at this cheeky charge. He is going to turn around and try and countercharge with what few units still remain. The Wardens are going to be able to stand their ground, but I think even the bodyguard of the Southwark Finderato are already on their way off the field, and my forces are going to surge forward in turn. Oh, my Bulldogs just fell, but these Wardens of Nargothrond are not long for this world. Now, if you look at the frames there, we still have about 2,000 frames left, although it seems like the game is over. So it's really going to come down to some cat and mouse play here. Artorius trying to use his cavalry and snipe out my Uraloki, while I am trying to safely use my Uraloki in counter charges almost exclusively, and then use my infantry body to try and soak the charge damage so that my Uraloki can remain functioning into the late game. Ooh, big charge here. Unfortunately, the Throngshik weren't able to get their charge value off, I don't think. My Uraloki are going to countercharge them, and that's pretty well going to be the end of those Throngshik right there. Well, not quite. Not quite. There are still a few of them left over. And a countercharge there is actually going to isolate one of my Uraloki, and we might see this unit begin to fall. Although a countercharge from infantry is actually going to save them. so fantastic for them. You can see my Uroloki charging forward, but again, I don't want to let them get too far ahead. If they get mobbed by the Throng Sheik, especially this late point in the game when they've already done so much fighting, they will fall away in short order, and then I'm just going to have to rely on my infantry to try and deal with charges from a ferocious cavalry unit that specializes in their shock damage. So again, my Uroloki are the linchpin of my remaining forces, and I just need to be careful with them. So you can see them turning around, coming for another charge. I'm going to countercharge them with everything I got and try and let my cavalry, or my Uroloki rather, my elephants, do their charge bonus right through the Throng Sheik units, which is going to allow them to do the maximum amount of damage. I think one of the units routed off. The very, very small unit that only had about 1 left in it, but there are still 20 Throng Sheiks still remaining. My Uroloki here are just marauding around, basically unopposed. I'm able to block with my infantry and the units I care less about, and then throw my Uroloki in when the time comes. So a little bit of a mistake here on my part. I let my units get too far ahead, so they're going to charge in. And they're going to be at a distinct disadvantage here against the Throng Sheik, who are going to be able to do some serious work in this kind of situation. Uroloki charging forward, managing to take down a few of the Throng Sheik. So we are managing to maintain some fairly steady rates of attrition on these cavalry. And it looks like they're going to try and muscle their way through. Well, they're very much in danger of routing off. And you can see, oh, the route is beginning to stabilize. So they managed to push their way through. But they're moving through some pretty dire straits here, and I don't blame them for wanting to get out into the open and maybe trying to separate my my Uroloki again. But at this point, I don't think that there's enough of the Throng Sheik left. Although 10 of them, still pretty significant. Against what I have left, they can certainly be a real danger. But with my Uroloki and stuff like this, we are beginning to pull it back. So we're gonna go ahead and kick it into full speed now. At this point, I don't really have too much of an option here but to try and hole up in the canyon, because I don't really want to fight him on open ground, because that's where he's at his best. A brutal charge there. It's actually going to make a pretty significant impact. It's going to take down one of my Uroloki. He's going to pay for that with 2 of his Throng Sheik. Hello, kitty. Yeah, he's going to pay for that with 2 of his Throng Sheik. And then I'm just going to try and be relentless here, because I can kind of smell blood in the water a little bit. If I can get him with my Uroloki and the rest of my units, then I should be able to rout him off. And indeed, we do manage it. They're going to rout off with 7, and that's going to leave us masters of this particular battlefield. So a really, really close game there. Really came down to the wire. Great job to both my opponents. Artorias really likes to experiment, which is why I enjoy having him as a tester. So seeing 3 Throng Sheik in a battle was very, very surprising. I only realized that late into the battle when I saw the other unit with 30 in it, and I'm like, oh god. It was certainly a big shock for me. And you know what? I think it's actually a pretty decent battle in a free-for-all. In free-for-alls, you can get away with some like pretty weird, kind of off-kilter, not exactly meta things, so it was nice to see that in the battle today. But in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Next up, I will have another 1 versus 1 on Silmarillion Total War. And then following that, I will have a cinematic battle, that being a battle replay commentary with a cinematic trailer that precedes it on Third Age Reforged. It's a big 4v4, and it's kind of a response to a video that I did a long time ago with Gondor versus Harad. So we're going to be taking up that legacy and adding to it. So that's something you can look forward to in the future. We'll also have some not replays, but live streams and stuff coming up as well. Still waiting for results to kind of come in completely for the DAC live stream faction pick. But I will be picking up our other campaigns like Ultharion and stuff in the near future as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you join me for whatever comes next. Take care. Oh, I guess I better look at this before someone out there crucifies me. There you go. Uroloki, 288 kills. Arbalest did really well for themselves. My Reavers got 403 kills, although that's really seriously padded by Howler units. But in any case, my name is Jordan Nelson as JMonster. Take care, guys.